see trees of green, red roses too. I see them blue.
Welcome to Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, powered by Jack's Angels, where we talk about your experiences, advocacy news, research, and today's heroes for kids. We are here to bring hope to the unthinkable but real experience of a child diagnosed with cancer. Jack's Angels' advocacy mission is to provide a voice for children with cancer to effect change for a more hopeful future for those to come. Childhood Cancer Talk Radio starts right now. Here's your host, Janet Demeter.
Welcome to Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, your source for advocacy news, support, education, and awareness on toginet.com. This show is powered by Jack's Angels Foundation for DIPG Awareness and Research and Advocacy for Children with Cancer, to be found on the web at jacksangels.org. I'm Janet Demeter, your host, and throughout April and May, our focus continues to be brain tumors, the leading cause of death in children diagnosed with cancer, and unfortunately, one of the least funded areas of cancer research. If you're listening for the first time and don't know a lot about childhood cancer research, you're probably thinking, how can that be? Yes, we have all wondered that. The important thing is not to allow the outrage to disappear in resignation. We are dealing with a medical research system that serves first and foremost the profit motive of the investing corporations. This is really no different from any other area of business. It's just that our tax dollars allotted for cancer research with the National Cancer Institute seem to follow the same formula, with only 4% of the budget benefiting pediatric cancer research, and little transparency or accountability with those choices and the priorities that govern them. In fact, legislation specifically for childhood cancer, which addressed this issue in some part of each bill, has disappeared in the past. The current STAR Act, now under consideration in the House and Senate, is a comprehensive bill that addresses several tenets important to caring for children with cancer. Omitted, however, is any mention of the Government Accountability Office or any tracking of funds present in the previous bills. When we pose questions to the NCI about the choices made in designated funds, we are referred to peer review and steering committees, but there is plainly no direct accountability to our representatives in Congress and no legislation in place to insist upon it. There is only the yearly address to Congress of the Director of the National Institutes of Health, a very broad overview indeed, with no time to address the urgent needs of our children or to consider them relevant to the much larger, broader issues in our country today. Today's show is dedicated to the realities endured by those families currently caring for a child diagnosed with DIPG, diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma, perhaps the most aggressive and malignant pediatric brain tumor. Our show is also a plea for consideration of HRES 586, Chad and Jack's DIPG Awareness Resolution, currently in the House Energy and Commerce Committee. We are encouraging listeners to visit hres586.com for easy-to-follow directions for asking your representatives in Congress to support it. What is so important about this resolution is that it makes a direct request without stipulating or allocating for more consideration for our deadliest cancers and our children for research funding with the NCI. Currently, families discover that there are no solutions for their child because the numbers aren't great enough for investors, which translates your child's life is less important than quick profits on investments. At least that's how it can feel, you would imagine. I will return to this later for more detailed description, but please keep it in mind as we hear from our guests today. The experiences they are extremely brave to share with us due to personal content and very difficult nature are not rare. Thousands have experienced this in recent years, and currently there are most likely between 250 to 400 children diagnosed with DIPG in the United States. This is why this awareness bill is so important. For decades, literally since the 1960s, this disease has remained terminal with little change in treatment protocol. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Childhood Cancer Talk Radio on toginet.com, and our show today is about the realities of DIPG, diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma. I'm Janet Demeter, your host, and I have Jaime King here with me today, mom to Katie, 7 years old, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because sometimes I do that, and Mark Landis, dad to Parker, who is 5 years old. Parker, right. I hope I didn't get that wrong either. Both children are here in Southern California, and both have been diagnosed with DIPG. We are fortunate 2 days after the Moonshot Initiative was announced we were fortunate to air our first show with Jaime King here to tell us about Katie. I'd like to check in with her to hear how she's doing after, it's been 3 months' time already. Jaime, welcome again to Childhood Cancer Talk Radio.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here and to talk about this again.
That's great, Jaime. So I know it was already, you were at a difficult point in your journey at the time that I talked to you. I know there was, you were struggling to get a certain medication approved, the panabinostat, and finding ways to fund it. Could you tell us what developments have occurred since then?
Yeah, we created a social media campaign and just whiplashed the insurance company and the pharmaceutical company with just an unbelievable amount of mail and calls. And within 1 week of each other, both the pharmaceutical company and the insurance company relented and approved her drug, which was panabinostat. It's not a drug that's been proven to help with DIPG, but in lab tests, it's been proven to shrink the tumor. So their reason for not providing it was that there was no evidence that it would work, but there would never be evidence if we didn't use it. So we were pushing that back onto them. Finally, it got approved, and we were told by a lady at the pharmaceutical company that she had never seen so many signatures on a form and a form get pushed through so fast. So it was proof that if you're angry enough and have enough people behind you, you can get things done, which is sad, because it's something that they should have approved on request, especially for cancer such as this, where there is no survival rate. I feel, and a lot of us parents feel, that we should have a choice of whatever trial and drug we want for our children.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that also, though, I know it's sad, but it also shows the power of awareness, because you had those people behind you. I know that in recent years, even in recent months, the growth of social media and presences on the web and it's more quick and efficient now than it was just even a few years ago. And it's so pleasing to me to see how quickly the outpouring of support comes now. And it's so important, I think, for us to recognize that, affirm it, and keep it moving forward. I know even it was like the day before our first show when I talked to you, was that when our Congressman Knight put HRES 586 in the House. I would never even dream of something like that when my son was diagnosed.
No, there wasn't a social media campaign for this, and parents were, not only were the parents not aware, as I was when my daughter was diagnosed, but you couldn't get enough people to scream loud enough to get you approved for drugs, because the drugs weren't there anyways. So it didn't matter. Mm-hmm.
It's the scream inside. I understand. I mean, first you get this diagnosis, and all the doctors, right? They have a hard time even looking you in the eye. At least that was my experience. And then you find out when you ask, well, wow, they've known about this for how long?
Yeah.
And when? Wow. It's crazy, right?
Yeah. And I've received that look from several doctors, the pitiful, well, here's the trials that we're doing, and we will graciously lump your daughter into them. They're not made for DIPG, but it's worth a shot. When in this case it's not. It's usually not worth a shot. We need people to build trials specifically for this cancer that are less harmful for our kids, and not just lump us into other cancers. It's completely different. Gliomas are horrible tumors, and they need to be treated differently.
Yes, and brainstem glioma is the leading cause of cancer-related death in children. So there's like urgency right there, but it's still so hard. It's still such a fight.
And most of the funding for this type of cancer is done by the families, which is crazy. And, we have a local hospital, City of Hope. They're doing a $65,000 drive this year. They're using, they were inspired by Katherine's story. And that's unheard of, too, to hear that a hospital will spend their entire year fundraising for a brainstem glioma cancer, and even put DIPG in the description of that fundraising. It's rare. It's good. It's good that they're doing it. It's good that people are listening to us now. But it should have happened a long time ago, and we need to keep working at it.
Absolutely. So update us a little bit. How far along is Katie in the process, and how is she doing?
She's 10 months in. She's doing okay. Her symptoms are progressing. We are too far into this diagnosis to join any trials. When you have progressing tumor, you're basically ixnayed from joining a trial unless it's a trial that's not specific for DIPG. They want fresh tumors. They want no medications on the tumor. They want biopsies, things that we weren't given the choice to do initially, so we were sort of forced out of it from the beginning. So right now we're giving her herbal therapy oils, which cost us about $5,500 a month.
Wow.
We don't get any support for that. That's another thing that I find unacceptable, is the fact that it would cost the insurance company a lot less money to give me natural therapy, which I'm more willing to give to my kid, than narcotics, but they won't. So that's frustrating.
Well, maybe that's where the fundraisers come in handy.
Oh, yes. So we fundraise consistently. Our life, basically, we are administrative assistant paper pushers.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We'll be right back. We'll be right back.
Sure.
If you could live your life truly standing in a place of peace, joy, and abundance, wouldn't that make your heart soar? Now you can, with Lessons in Joyful Living, with your host, Kimberly Rinaldi, Mondays at noon Central. Kimberly Rinaldi, having created a highly successful coaching practice, now teaches lessons in joyful living. She believes in empowering others, and that through it, you have the ability to break through any and all barriers, thus allowing you to reach your greatest potential and joyfully step into your life's purpose. What used to take weeks, months, or even years, she can now teach you in a matter of hours with her programs. For more on Kim and her show, go to her website, KimberlyRinaldi.com. That's RINALDI.com. Then join us for Lessons in Joyful Living with your host, Kimberly Rinaldi.
Have you heard? The pages of American Patchwork and Quilting magazine come to life on our new weekly online radio show, American Patchwork and Quilting. Join Pat Sloan, our blogging and quilt designer host, as she talks about the latest trends, ideas, and inspirations. Her guests include quilt pattern designers, authors, quilt shop owners, and our editors, all quilters, just like you. Call in with your questions. Get quilting tips from industry experts. Learn about free patterns. Hear behind-the-scenes stories from our magazines, American Patchwork and Quilting, Quilt Sampler, and Quilts and More. Get the scoop on free stuff and find out more about the best independent quilt shops in North America. To listen to a live show, tune in Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Just log on to allpeoplequilt.com/radio. To hear past shows, go to iTunes and search for American Patchwork and Quilting Radio. We hope you'll join us because we know that quilting changes everything.
Welcome back to Childhood Cancer Talk Radio on TogiNet.com. I hope you've enjoyed our messages from our TogiNet sponsors. They make the show possible. And now we're going to go back to our conversation we were having before with Jaime King. We were talking about her progress with Katie. And Jaime, before the break, you were telling me a little bit about the treatments you were using, and unfortunately, they're not covered by anything. We're relying on fundraising. Could you tell us a little bit more about that, and also where people can go on the web to support you?
Yeah, what I was saying is that we spend most of our time fundraising. We have a lot of support from people around us, and they do a lot of fundraising for us. We also spend a lot of time filling out paperwork. There's not a lot of advocacy and support for families like us to fill out these, massive stacks of, second opinions and organizational paperwork for support to help pay your rent and your cars. You can't work like you used to. You can't do the things that you used to do to bring in an income. So you basically spend a lot of time begging for support. We have a website. It's a GoFundMe, and if you search up Katherine the Brave, Katherine, Katherine, the Brave. That is where we get most of our funding from and how we pay the bills at this point. It's hard to be so financially stable that you are, taking 2 vacations a year and paying your mortgage and dealing, not struggling to wondering how you're going to, pay for the meds for your daughter.
Absolutely.
Within a month,
It's crazy. Well, sharing your story here today is very important. There are other people like you out there. There are people in your situation who might not know that they're not alone. So I want to bring in our next guest who's sharing the floor with you today, because interestingly enough, when we aired our first show, I had the misfortune of Mark Landis' son, Parker, was diagnosed with DIPG two days after that first show with you, and he listened to the show, got through my nervous first show introduction. But he gained hope from hearing you speak, and now, oh my goodness, you're friends, you're helping one another, and I am just so privileged, Mark, to have you on the show with us today. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's really an honor to talk with you and to be here and to share stories. I think it's something that's really important, and I think it's wonderful that you've created this outlet and this source of advocacy on behalf of yourself and all of us that are currently battling DIPG.
It's my privilege.
Just a devastating disease.
It is. And it's not so rare. I know when my son was first diagnosed, I felt like I was a freak, like we were struck by lightning or something. And here's this child, that's so precious, and they're your world. And you discover that I discovered, and I can't speak for everyone. I like to pretend that I do sometimes, but I don't speak for everyone. But my experience was, when I asked a friend who worked in the pharmaceutical industry, I asked my doctor, I asked natural practitioners, why, if they've known about this for so long, why hasn't more been done? And the answer was always the same. And it's branded in my brain. It was that, there's, not enough numbers for investors. How many is enough? That just made me mad.
Oh, yeah.
It's a tough thing.
Absolutely. And Parker's story is so familiar to the other stories that we've heard on your show and that we've read on social media.
Well, I want to hear about him. Tell us about Parker.
Absolutely, yeah. Parker's just an amazing little boy. So back in the middle of January, he was going to school. Everything was normal. I picked him up a Friday prior to his diagnosis from school, from the after school program. And they told me, hey, Parker's sleeping on the floor, and it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon, kind of a strange thing, but that was the first day of his after school soccer program. I figured, hey, maybe this is going to be a good source of energy outlet for him. Although sleeping at 5 is a little bit more than I anticipated. So I went in there and he woke up and he really had a lot of trouble walking to the car. And I didn't think anything of it. He can become a little bit uncooperative, when things are not working out for him. But we got to the car, he got home, and he broke out into a really high fever, which continued throughout the night, accompanied with some vomiting. And that Saturday, when he woke up, he came downstairs and he couldn't open his right eye. He just couldn't do it. We took him to the pediatrician, and thankfully, very competent, very, very good pediatrician. And she immediately recognized the situation and had us go to the hospital. From there, we were transferred to the local children's hospital, where they did an MRI, and that's where they discovered exactly what it was, which was a diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma. And it's just absolutely devastating. My wife and I had never heard of this, of course. I don't think anybody in my family or my close friends or anybody in my neighborhood had ever heard of this. Even when we have huge stories like Lauryn Hill, and we have big names like Neil Armstrong's daughter, the association with a particular disease it doesn't happen. It doesn't click in people's minds that what Lauryn Hill went through so bravely and what she did for this community and this disease and how she was able to advocate. A lot of people don't realize, they don't make the connection that this is that disease. It's the same thing. And it's, I think if that association could be made, if people could understand truly what these big national, international cases, how they push through, getting this on the top of people's minds, if they could make that link, I think that would go a long way in helping bring this to the forefront.
It's hard to also, because I know myself when I get really in kind of an activist mode, because I want to, when you have the energy and the passion, you want to shout from the rooftops. I designed this T-shirt, I liken DIPG to death row for kids, because you keep wanting to see each one make it, and it's so hard to experience it yourself and to watch it too. And so, you have to be careful in the way you give out the information sometimes as well, because there are so many parents out there going through it. I have a feeling with more attention and more research activity and more hope, it will get that part will be a little easier, and you won't have to worry so much about offending anyone. But when you first start getting the word out there, you can offend some people, because you got to tell it like it is. How else are people ever going to listen? How are representatives in Congress ever going to listen to us?
Oh, absolutely. I can't agree with you more. My wife and I have had so many conversations. We have, close friends and family that do understand the situation. They do understand how dire it is, and how the page we have for Parker is hope for Parker. But that hope, the definition of that hope, is something that it's different than the way other people might use hope. Right. For us, it's the hope that we find a cure in time, that we find a treatment that can successfully extend his life, that can provide him with more time with us and with his friends. And the thought of that not happening is really, really difficult to face. And that's what we live with every single day. Every day we wake up, the first thought on our minds is, what can we do today? What do we need to do? Who have we reached out to? And, Parker's at the point in his diagnosis. So we're 3 months in. On the 17th, that'll mark 3 months, which absolutely scares us to death.
Of course.
We're done with, quote, standard of care, which is radiation. And so now we're thankfully in somewhat of a honeymoon period where his symptoms have abated a little bit, or abated. And now it's the grueling part for my wife and I, determining what's next. What are we going to do for this boy that we love so much? And it's a really difficult process because, as you guys have both mentioned, there's not a whole lot out there. And it wasn't until maybe a month or so into all of this we realized what the landscape really was. And it's just not a very good place to be. No. Yeah, modern medicine isn't there yet. We're just not there yet. And you don't expect that. You don't expect that to be the answer. You expect your child to get sick, to go to the doctor, to be diagnosed, and to have a treatment. And and that last part, not having that, and knowing the prognosis, knowing that we're watching our son slowly die, and there's nothing that we can do that's currently known to stop that, is a huge, huge weight and a burden. And it's very, very difficult to live with. But we know we have to, because damn it, he's our son. And we love him to death, and we would absolutely do anything in the world, anything, to help.
We'll be back in just a moment.
Right back with more on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where kids come first for the cure.
Have you heard? The pages of American Patchwork and Quilting magazine come to life on our new weekly online radio show, American Patchwork and Quilting. Join Pat Sloan, our blogging and quilt designer host, as she talks about the latest trends, ideas, and inspirations. Her guests include quilt pattern designers, authors, quilt shop owners, and our editors, all quilters, just like you. Call in with your questions. Get quilting tips from industry experts. Learn about free patterns. Hear behind-the-scenes stories from our magazines, American Patchwork and Quilting, Quilt Sampler, and Quilts and More. Get the scoop on free stuff and find out more about the best independent quilt shops in North America. To listen to a live show, tune in Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Just log on to allpeoplequilt.com/radio. To hear past shows, go to iTunes and search for American Patchwork and Quilting Radio. We hope you'll join us because we know that quilting changes everything.
LinkedIn. It's a great tool and a great way to do business in today's social media driven world. And Carol McManus is the LinkedIn Lady with the LinkedIn Lady Show. Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern on allbusinessradionetwork.com. The LinkedIn Lady Show is designed to inform, inspire, and educate businesses. Every social media site has a specific demographic, personality, and purpose. And the LinkedIn Lady will interview a variety of guests, such as business owners who can showcase their business and talk about how they use social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google+, Pinterest, and of course, LinkedIn. For more on Carol and the show, check out her website, LinkedInLady.com. As trends change and new applications become available, the LinkedIn Lady Show will bring that information to you in an easy-to-use, fun, and engaging way. Every Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern, it's the LinkedIn Lady Show with Carol McManus on allbusinessradionetwork.com.
Hey, we're back with Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, and on TogiNet.com, of course, and I hope you enjoyed. I like the TogiNet sponsor commercials. I think they're awesome. I have to thank them because they make this show possible, and we love this network. The show is also powered by Jack's Angels Foundation for Pediatric Brain Tumor Awareness and Research and Support, and they can be found at jacksangels.org. We're moving into the advocacy news portion of the show, which it should be fairly brief. We'll be right back with our guests who are waiting with me and listening to the news. And I'm moving into the news from our last segment. Mark Landis was describing the experience that is being a parent of a beautiful child that's been diagnosed with DIPG. You have to wait and basically watch them slowly die without, basically helpless. And it's an extremely difficult thing to live with. And, all the experience we have with modern medicine is that you're diagnosed, you get a treatment, there you go. With this, there's nothing. And without any awareness, that's not going to change, because there's always money for things that are a priority. And so now we move into our advocacy news. And the first piece touches on something we talked about earlier in the show. This may be helpful to our guests. Nancy Goodman of Kids vs. Cancer, just weeks ago during our interview with Maddie Miracle Foundation, was on the Hill speaking to the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs in support of several initiatives and acts needing important updates and reinstatements to help connect patients to new and potentially life-saving treatments like the panobinostat that Katie has to fight to get, and Kids vs. Cancer's Compassionate Use Navigator, as this system will help the parents of dying children have more time with them. Trying to jump through the bureaucratic hoops of compassionate care when your child is dying is terrible indeed. So please visit kidsvcancer.org. That's kids, the letter V, and then cancer.org for more information on these important legislative developments involving the reinstatement of the 21st Century Cures Act, amending the Pediatric Research Equity Act, or PREA, to take into account scientific developments with the Kids Innovative Initiative, ensuring opportunities for pediatric research along with the adult research. Again, that's www.kidsvcancer.org. Our recent guest and CEO of the Children's Cause Cancer Advocacy, George Dahlman, encourages all listeners concerned with advocacy to visit their website at childrenscause.org. The Children's Cause leads in providing a voice in Congress for you, the administration, and government agencies for parents and advocates around the United States, and they encourage your participation in their activities. For more information on the most important legislation for childhood cancer in U.S. Congress today and how you can help support it, visit childrenscause.org. Vice President Biden has just opened an interactive Facebook page for you to let him know what's on your mind about Moonshot. And that's visit facebook.com/Vice President Biden, all typed out. So what is your opinion about Moonshot? I'd really like to know. Write me at cctalkradio@gmail.com. Subject line opinion. We're starting an opinion page with your feedback about what's happening out there in the world and what you really think and feel about it. Did I say something you disagree with or something you think should be highlighted more? Tell me. Again, at cctalkradio@gmail.com. I'll let you know just for a minute when I think about Moonshot. I was incredibly elated to find out about it and then very discouraged when I found all the briefings to list children and childhood cancer at the very end. A couple little notes, sideline notes. Well, maybe we might be able to give these very rare cancers more of an opportunity for research, and it just really made me feel like, well, this is just business as usual for children anyway. They have a bright and shining blue ribbon panel. Thank goodness we have the head of the National Brain Tumor Society as, I think, the only advocate on the panel. The rest are big corporations like Coke and Dana-Farber, which is great, but I'm just seeing more large corporation representation rather than any sort of interaction between this committee and potentially a committee from Congress, let's say. Anyway, folks, the childhood cancer advocacy movement needs your support. The leading cause of cancer-related death in children has been systematically neglected by the medical research system for decades. The only way our laws change to accommodate public demand and public need is for that public to express this to their representatives. That's how our democracy works. Put it to use. Why? Childhood cancer legislation has a history of disappearing. Please support the following two bills currently in the House. They're both important. and they both need votes. The first is doing fairly well, but it needs more. The STAR Act expands upon previous bills in a comprehensive manner. The Childhood Cancer Survivorship Treatment Access and Research, or STAR Act, would expand opportunities for childhood cancer research, improve efforts to identify and track childhood cancer incidents, enhance the quality of life for childhood cancer survivors, and ensure publicly accessible expanded access policies that provide hope for patients who have run out of options. To access your rep's contact information, visit www.house.gov/representatives/find. In the Senate, www.senate.gov/index. The most important House resolution right now is HRES 586 and needs your support. Sometimes an awareness resolution is just the perfect way to start people talking about an important idea that has been neatly evaded or avoided entirely for a long time. Chad and Jack's DIPG resolution, named for Chad Carr of Ann Arbor, Michigan, and Jack Demeter of Santa Clarita, California, calls for a National Awareness Week for DIPG and its thousands of departed heroes and brave kids currently fighting to stay alive, and more awareness from the neglect of pediatric cancer in our medical research system. Using diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma as an example, we learned how the second most common pediatric brain tumor is responsible for the majority of brain tumor deaths in children each year, yet there has been no progress in its terminal prognosis in over 40 years, with an average of 20,000 years of life lost each year. HRES 586 calls for more consideration of low survival rate cancers and years of life lost in the research grant process with the National Cancer Institute. Our biggest action days are coming, folks. Wednesday, April 20th, people. Visit HRES586.com for simple, easy-to-follow instructions to help support this bill and the many children currently fighting for their lives. Jack's Angels Foundation is warming up in Southern California to run 200 miles from Bakersfield to Huntington Beach for the Run for HRES 586. Support it by running or donating. Visit HRES586.com. The run honors N8, Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation, Jack's Angels, and McKenna Clare Foundations. All three children to inspire these organizations were afflicted with DIPG, diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma, for which there currently is no cure nor solutions to its terminal nature. HRES 586, introduced by Congressman Steve Knight and co-sponsored by Jackie Spear, and both co-chairs McCall of Texas and Van Holland of Maryland of the Congressional Caucus for Childhood Cancer, was conferred in its details and statistics by Dr. Michelle Mongi of Stanford University. All information about the bill can be accessed at HRES586.com, Jack's Angels advocacy page. Out here to celebrate HRES 586 is the first ever Relay for Jack, benefiting pediatric brain tumor research at CCTR, the Children's Cancer Therapy Development Institute, May 28th, 2016, in honor of the first National DIPG Awareness Week. Relay for Jack is an ultra-distance 8-hour relay for serious runners, advocates, and families alike wanting to raise funds for an innovative new research project for DIPG, the deadliest pediatric brain tumor. For more information, visit relayforjack.org. There are business sponsorships available. The bonuses include a TED-style talk for your company by Scientific Director Dr. Charles Keller of CCTR, or a day as a scientist for 2 to 3 company employees at the laboratory at CCTR in Beaverton, Oregon. The National Brain Tumor Society is hosting its Head to the Hill Days this May 2nd through 4th. Hurry to braintumor.org to participate and or support this action. Important legislation for medical research, brain tumors, and the Childhood Cancer STAR Act is on the agenda. The race for a cure benefiting brain tumor research is May 1st. Sign up at braintumor.org. The Alliance for Childhood Cancer will host this year's Childhood Cancer Action Days in Washington, D.C. also on May 16th and 17th, 2016. Visit the Alliance on Facebook or on the web at allianceforchildhoodcancer.org. All words written out, allianceforchildhoodcancer.org. CureFest 2016, a national movement, begins with the first steps, September 17th and 18th, 2016. Don't miss this event. Also in D.C., if advocacy is important in your life, CureFest provides a supportive environment where people from all walks of life join together with a common purpose. You are not alone. CureFest is a great way to meet others who walk this path, network, and learn more about the possibilities for your role in the movement. And with no further ado, we return to our conversation with Jaime King and Mark Landis about their children, Katie and Parker. And before the break, we were discussing, this difficult experience we have as parents, having to watch our child go through this experience that is DIPG, or diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma. I hope that your participation today here seemingly small thing, right? And some of these things that are in the House, in our Congress, and some of these people out here that are fighting, I hope this gives you not only hope, but also more energy to keep fighting, because of your incredible participation in your own process with your child and fighting for them, you're giving other people hope and also momentum to this movement. Either one of you, please comment.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It does give us hope, it does help us through the day. It's unfortunate that most of the people involved are moms and dads who have already lost their child, and we recognize that, and that's difficult for us. But we are eternally thankful for the hard work that everybody is doing, and it's an amazing first step. Having congressional sight of DIPG and of other pediatric cancers, particularly ones that are incurable, is so important. It's so important to get the lawmakers, the people controlling budgets, on board. And unfortunately, it might be one of those cases where we may have to wait until this ugly, deadly disease affects one of them and their family. And I absolutely hope that never happens. I would never wish this upon anybody. And I hope that we can get the traction we need to really make some progress and some movement, because there's kids out there today like Parker, like Katherine, and so many others that need the help, and they need a cure, and they need it now.
Well, when we come back after the break, because we're going to take another break, I'd like to, it'll be our final segment, I'd like to talk about the treatments that you're currently going through with the natural treatments, what that's like, and what it's like to talk realistically with your child about what's happening to them. I'm Janet Demeter, your host for Childhood Cancer Talk Radio. We'll be right back after these messages from our TogiNet sponsors.
Stay tuned. Janet will be right back with more on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where kids come first for the cure.
If you're ready for a big change in your work, your career, your happiness, your life, it's time for the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 Central on TogiNet.com. Marla believes that with the right mindset, anything is possible. Join us as successful life coach Marla Tabaka inspires you and her clients to explore, discover, and live your dreams by developing what she calls the $1 Million Mindset. Marla will inspire you to take action on your dreams and reveal secrets to success that will help you realize your own unique power. Tune into the $1 Million Mindset for heartwarming stories with Marla Tabaka. Learn tips and tricks to building a successful business and unlock the secrets to creating a happier, more balanced life through abundant thinking and attraction power. For more information on the $1 Million Mindset, go to our website, marlatabaka.com. That's MarlaTabaka.com. It's the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
Have you heard? The pages of American Patchwork and Quilting magazine come to life on our new weekly online radio show, American Patchwork and Quilting. Join Pat Sloan, our blogging and quilt designer host, as she talks about the latest trends, ideas, and inspirations. Her guests include quilt pattern designers, authors, quilt shop owners, and our editors, all quilters, just like you. Call in with your questions. Get quilting tips from industry experts. Learn about free patterns. Hear behind-the-scenes stories from our magazines, American Patchwork and Quilting, Quilt Sampler, and Quilts and More. Get the scoop on free stuff and find out more about the best independent quilt shops in North America. To listen to a live show, tune in Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Just log on to allpeoplequilt.com/radio. To hear past shows, go to iTunes and search for American Patchwork and Quilting Radio. We hope you'll join us because we know that quilting changes everything.
That's Mark's favorite show.
Welcome back to Childhood Cancer Talk Radio on TogiNet.com, where we were enjoying the messages from the TogiNet sponsors. Thank you, TogiNet sponsors, for making our show possible. We're here for our final portion of today's show, The Realities of DIPG, with Jaime King and Mark Landis. And before the break, we were discussing just how important the awareness factor is and what an amazing historic thing it is, really, that we have the DIPG Awareness Bill and the STAR Act getting support, in Congress today. But more importantly, I wanted to discuss, what it's like, having to use, you're using these alternative therapies, not always knowing exactly what's going on, not having, we have some experts with it, but everything is pretty much experimental. Jaime, could you describe to us a little bit what it's like using, for example, the cannabis treatment?
Yeah, we have Katie on 1,500 milligrams of CBD and THC. It's 1,200 milligrams of THC, which is, which would kill a small man if given all at one time. 300 milligrams of CBD, and we just recently started her on a form of cannabis called THCA, which is a more pure, early on in the plant growth. It's supposed to have more healing properties. It just wasn't explored until recently. We're hoping that builds some cells, some healthy cells around the tumor, and gives us more time. None of the natural therapies that we're taking or that any of the other parents, just from what I've, talked to other parents and have read, none of these therapies are believed to cure the cancer. They're there to help through the process. Katie's 10 months into her diagnosis. To not be on steroids or some form of narcotic or anti-anxiety medicine is unheard of at this stage.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
She's on 0.5 milligrams of steroids, which is an extremely low number. If you're familiar with it, most kids are on anywhere from like 4 to 8. Yeah. And that, we believe, is because of the oils, and they're extremely expensive, but they cost a lot less than the meds that they're giving us cost. And they actually make her feel better. And we are left with the burden of paying for that. We could choose to take the other meds, but we fundraise for the more natural options.
That's great. So, Mark, are you doing this treatment as well?
We are, yeah.
Because we're lucky here in California, right, guys? Some other states, they can't even get it.
And other parents have been had their children taken away from them because they, had odd scenarios and situations after their child passed away, and social workers have come in and found the oils, and social services took their child, their other child, their surviving child. So you lose your child and you lose another child, within a day of losing, one child. We're definitely lucky.
Oh, that's great. Even here in California, just a few years ago, I heard about, Sophie and Saving Sophie, the little girl who's doing much better now because of her use. But I had no direction with it. I had some naturopathic doctor say prescribe it for me. I didn't know. And somebody brought me some because they knew I was interested in trying this. And here I was with no direction.
Yeah. And Sophie has an incurable cancer as well.
Right. But she's managing it, right?
Mm-hmm. With her
anyway.
oil.
It just made me so paranoid. I ended up giving back the oil. I was paranoid for weeks that my son would be taken away from me because I still nursed him. I tested on myself because his body's a lot like mine. I'm very sensitive to any kind of drug. And I couldn't handle it, of course, because I didn't know how to dose it properly. And so I lived in that fear that, for the short amount of time I had with my son alive, I'm sitting here paranoid that he's going to be taken away. That's just so unfair, right? A lot of parents go through that.
And that's what Candid Kids takes care of for you. Sophie is the inspiration for Candid Kids, and they help you through that process. Whenever we are ready to up or change or do anything, they will tell you this is how much you want to give. You don't, in order to not affect their bodies through the process, and they'll handle it a lot better. And they followed us through this entire journey. That wasn't available a year and a half ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Fair enough. So, Mark, are you using this protocol as well for your son, or is it an option? Oh, excellent.
It is an option, yeah. Thankfully, we're here in California as well. We were actually introduced to Candid Kids by Jaime, and we've been working with one of Parker's doctors to help us with the titration plan. And so far we're having a lot of success with it. I agree with Jaime in this particular case. I don't believe the properties of these oils is enough to provide life-saving measure, but it absolutely 100% is increasing the quality of his life. It's managing the nausea that he's been having. And that alone to me is worth it. Eating is so important. As a parent, you just have this natural need to see your child eat because it's so important. And when that doesn't happen, you almost start to freak out, and you're not sure what to do. But of course, there's a pill for that, or there's multiple pills for that. And then there's side effects. And so there's Zofran, it's a very lightweight medicine, which Parker has been using, but it causes severe constipation in the dosing that's required to help him. Oh. And so how do you treat the constipation? Well, there's a powder for that. And it just kind of keeps going and going like dominoes. But what we have found is that these oils in particular have really, really helped us kind of get a hold of the nausea and the desire to not want to eat. And I think it's really helped take the edge off of those symptoms that he's been having now that we're post-radiation and sort of in this, quote, honeymoon period.
It also helps with some other things that we've noticed with Katie. I don't know if you've noticed with Parker, but the anxiety. I mean, they're going in through an area of the brain that it affects your emotions. It also is a natural oil. It builds good cells in the body and has been proven to rebuild cells and kill cancer. Although it may not kill this particular type of cancer, it is healing the brain, and it is one of the natural medicines that can get past the blood-brain barrier, which most of medicines can't. So all of that put together just spells good,
Oh, definitely. And there might even be potential for direct access even.
Exactly. They're working on ways, while they're working on drugs to kill this cancer, they're working on ways to get it past the blood-brain barrier. That's another obstacle that needs to be reached. And there's CED, convection-enhanced delivery. There's nasal passageway. They're working on ways to get these oils into the brain faster. And who knows, like in the Petri dish, when this oil is killing the cancer cells, there may be a way to get it into the brain better so that it can do the same thing.
That's fantastic. We had, if any of our listeners want to take a look back a few episodes, we had the Kira Spadali Foundation on to talk about what they were doing with Bristol at the University of Bristol with the convection enhanced delivery system. Take a look back and download the podcast for that. And I don't know. There's no definitive answers right now about what they're doing with that here in the United States. I heard some talk about Cornell, but I haven't heard anything definitive coming out as of, very recently. But hopefully they're working on it. I want to see more world collaboration. And we had Kathy Warren on last week. Oh, my God, she was fantastic. And she mentioned that it's because of the parents, really. that there is not only funding for some of this research, because it just wouldn't happen otherwise. It's still a drop in the bucket, but it's something. But they're the ones that are encouraging the worldwide collaboration, because this is going to happen. This is going to get solved. This is going to get cured by everyone working together. It's not going to come from just one place. And she was like the first one to say that.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. One of the frustrations we're dealing with right now is the lack of transparency with clinical trials. And the fact it's hard enough when all of these are phase 1. And for people that don't understand what that means, it means our children are taking the place of rats. Yeah. There are trials that are testing drugs for the first time in children. These are toxicity trials.
Right.
That's the hope that's laid out to us by the medical field. And when you ask for more information, well, has the overall survival increased? Sorry, that's proprietary information. We can't share that with you right now. Okay, great. Well, you got to sell me on this somehow. And it's like a rock and a hard place. And what they're doing in Bristol is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I want to see more transparency there as well. Yes. I think they're onto something, but they need to start sharing. And I know they're raising money for a clinical trial, but they need to allow other oncologists and neurosurgeons access to what they're doing. We like you said, that needs to become a part of a larger overall research effort.
Yes.
That's the only way we can accelerate these techniques and these new devices and these drug delivery mechanisms.
Yeah, our
Absolutely.
kids don't make it past phase 1.
Yeah.
Our kids are gone before phase 2 starts. Right. And most of the trials that we're allowed to join are not even DIPG trials. They are glioma trials or brain cancer trials.
Right.
So to have a DIPG trial with transparency where where we see some valid results and everybody collaborates would be something unheard of right now.
We need to make our children a priority. And
absolutely.
I just want you guys to know we're almost done with our time. It's gone way too fast for me. I had so many more questions for you.
I dread the hour, but this is, it moves really fast.
I hope that I can have you back, and not too long from now, to let us know how you're doing and to fill us in on more. Thank you so much, both of you. It's been a privilege to have you on. From your own experience, you never know who you're going to help out there. And so I thank our listeners for tuning in, our sponsors at toginet.com for making the show possible. I'm Janet Demeter, your host. Our next show features activist runners from around the country getting together in support of children everywhere with this disease. We will be coming to you from On the Road with the Run for HRES 586. See you next time.
We hope you have found inspiration from today's show. For more about Janet Demeter and her mission, visit jacksangels.org. As founder and president, Janet strives to assure that children with cancer and their parents have a voice, raising awareness for the need to prioritize our children in the quest for a